The Citroën C5 Aircross wasn't a groundbreaking model, but it played a significant role in the French manufacturer's lineup. It was initially intended to replace the fondly remembered mid-size Citroën C5, and it did so successfully. The first generation already has a successor, so it's time to see if it's still attractive as a used car. The model debuted in China, where production and sales began. It didn't arrive in Europe until 2019. The Polish premiere took place in the spring, so it's worth noting right away that searching for models older than 2019 isn't worthwhile. Facelifted models were introduced in January 2022, and production ended in 2025, so the history is quite short. The model's facelift saw a redesign of the dashboard, primarily the multimedia screen and surrounding area, as well as the digital instrument cluster. There's also a new center console with a completely different gear selector switch for the automatic transmission. The seats have different, thicker padding and new upholstery colors. The car measures 4.5 meters in length with a 273 centimeters wheelbase. It's a typical representative of the C-segment SUV, or rather crossover. The car never had any utility or off-road aspirations. It was simply an average family car. The C5 Aircross offers plenty of space for 4 passengers or 3 children on the 3-seater bench. A child can also be accommodated in a child seat in the front seat, equipped with ISOFIX. Leather upholstery and massage seats were offered in higher spec versions, making the car quite capable of representing a successor to a mid-range model. A comprehensive suite of driving assistance systems ensures that the top-spec car is indistinguishable from the latest models. The interior is not only spacious, but also very comfortable. The seats and ergonomics deserve special attention. The rear bench is divided into 3 independent sections in a 40-20-40 ratio, adjustable fore-aft, and when folded, it creates a flat cargo floor. Its standard capacity is 580 liters. By sliding the rear bench forward, the capacity increases to 720 liters. In hybrid vehicles, this increases to 460 to 600 liters. The car rides pleasantly and smoothly thanks to its lightweight construction. The suspension is interesting, with its focus solely on comfort. The Citroën C5 Aircross is built on the EMP2 platform, the same platform used for the Opel Grandland and Peugeot 5008, among others. A unique feature of the model's suspension is its shock absorbers with hydraulic bump stops, which reduce the suspension's vibrations at their maximum. The front axle is a classic MacPherson strut, while the rear is a torsion beam. The steering is electrically assisted, working in conjunction with the active safety systems. Among the more interesting features is the grip control system, which modifies the traction control system in difficult conditions, simulating a differential lock. The car was available exclusively with front-wheel drive. The engine lineup includes gasoline engines from the PureTech family and new generation diesel engines from the Blue HDI family. A plug-in hybrid variant with a 13.2 kilowatt-hours battery was also offered from the outset. Initially, the petrol versions were the 1.2 PureTech with 131 horsepower and the 1.6 PureTech with 181 horsepower. The diesel range included the entry-level 1.5 Blue HDI with 131 horsepower and the 2.0 Blue HDI with 177 horsepower. In 2020, the 2-liter diesel was discontinued, leaving only the smaller engine. A year later, the 1.6 PureTech petrol engine was also discontinued, leaving only the 1.2 PureTech and 1.5 Blue HDI, 2 less powerful engines producing 131 horsepower each. The most powerful powertrain from 2021 was a plug-in hybrid based on the 1.6 PureTech engine with a system output of 224 horsepower. But in 2020, a similar hybrid with 181 horsepower joined the lineup. A minor breakthrough came in 2023, when the weak and questionable 1.2 PureTech was replaced by the 1.2 hybrid EDSC6 hybrid powertrain, generating 136 horsepower, and from 2025, 145 horsepower with a new 1.2 engine with a timing chain. The PureTech engine continued to be offered until 2024. Only the 1.2 PureTech and 1.5 Blue HDI variants were equipped with a manual gearbox, and only until 2024. EAT8 automatic transmissions, i.e. 8-speed Eisenach units, were almost standard. They were offered with all powertrains except the 1.2 hybrid EDS-C6. This version features an unusual dual-clutch gearbox with an electric motor mounted to it. The 1.2 hybrid EDS-C6 is called a mild hybrid, but it meets all the criteria to be simply called a hybrid and is homologated as such. As the history of the Citroe C5 Aircross demonstrates, engine choice largely depends on the model year. The top-of-the-line engines, the 1.6 PureTech petrol and the 2.0 Blue HDI diesel, quickly disappeared from the lineup. If the year doesn't matter to you, choose one of them. Nothing better under the hood has been available in this model. These are the most dynamic engines, except for hybrids, with fuel consumption of 7.7 liters per 100 kilometers petrol and 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers diesel, respectively. The 1.2 PureTech and 1.5 Blue HDI engines offer slightly lower fuel consumption but significantly lower performance. Of these two, it's better to opt for the diesel, as the 1.2 PureTech wasn't particularly successful for the French. The 1.5 Blue HDI diesel is better, though still not perfect. Performance is essentially similar to the 1.2 PureTech, but it uses less fuel and has a timing chain in addition to the belt. The problem is, it's also faulty. What about hybrids? Plug-ins may make more sense than the combustion engines offered later, but that's only until the first serious breakdown. Repairing hybrids of this brand is quite difficult, as the French haven't been particularly diligent about parts, especially electronics. It's a risk, especially if you prioritize performance. If not, it's better to spend a few €1,000 on servicing a 1.5-liter diesel and enjoy a quiet and fuel-efficient drive. There's also a hybrid based on the 1.2 PureTech engine, which is hardly the worst option in the range. A better option is the 145 horsepower variant, but this was only offered in the final year of production. Even the best 2.0 Blue HDI design isn't without its flaws, and the greatest risk comes from a faulty water pump, which can not only lose its seal but also clog the impeller, quickly leading to overheating. This engine's resistance to overheating is low, but a simple repair involving cylinder head grinding and gasket replacement is usually sufficient. The 1.6 PureTech petrol engine is nothing more than a thoroughly modernized 1.6 THP. Its main problem, the accumulation of excessive amounts of petrol in the oil, remains, but the durability of the entire structure, including the timing drive, has been improved. Overall, the engine receives positive reviews, and with exceptional oil maintenance, it runs virtually trouble-free. Oil changes every 10,000 kilometers are definitely too infrequent. The same applies to the 1.2 PureTech engine, which has a timing belt in an oil bath. The belt frays and fragments clog the oil channels, reducing lubrication, which leads to a number of problems. Some users praise this engine because they've been lucky with the oil selection and haven't had any belt problems yet. The belt itself isn't the only problem, as it still accumulates carbon deposits, but much depends on oil changes. This engine is manageable, and if the car is regularly serviced at a dealership, you can count on an extended warranty if necessary. And exactly the same can be expected for owners of the 1.5 Blue HDI, whose 7mm timing chain sometimes fails under the rigors of operating with poor quality oil and in start-stop mode. It can break after less than 100,000 kilometers. It can sometimes last 200,000 kilometers. It all depends on the use. A proper approach to oil changes and use of the start-stop system will solve the problem, although it's worth listening to the chain regularly. It can be replaced with a wider 8mm chain, but this operation can cost up to around €1,200. It's not necessary, but it is recommended. Additionally, diesel engines occasionally experience problems with DPF and FAP filters. DPFs are installed in smaller diesel engines, while FAPs are installed in larger ones, and experience shows that FAP is the better solution. The SCR system is more problematic in 1.5-liter diesel engines. Users generally don't complain about their gearboxes. Although Izena's 8-speed automatics don't have an oil filter replacement option, and the oil itself can be removed with about a third of the oil change, these gearboxes typically last for years. They're quite delicate and don't like aggressive driving. The excellently crafted, rust-free bodywork deserves high praise. The same can be said for the chassis, making work on the suspension a pure pleasure. The control arms have replaceable pins and bushings, but the first thing you'll need to replace are the tie rods, which are prone to knocking quite often. The shock absorbers with progressive travel limiters may raise some concerns. These are made by Kayaba, and replacements are reasonably priced at under €70 each. This applies only to the front shock absorbers. Rear shocks are not offered as replacements. The original costs €185 each. Electrical faults in the Citroe C5 Aircross aren't as common as in other French cars. Heating sometimes fails, but rarely. The heater core is the culprit. You can buy a car for less than €12,000. The lowest prices are found in the 1.2 PureTech version, but also in the 1.5 Blue HDI diesel with high mileage, often exceeding 200,000 kilometers. The upper price range is around €33,000, and we're talking about cars from the end of their production run, meaning almost new, with minimal mileage. Genuinely used cars, meaning those with at least 50,000 kilometers, reach maximum prices of close to €24,000.